All right, let's get started and welcome back everyone and welcome to the Open for Code Incubator program. This is also delivered to you in collaboration with the Founder Institute as well, especially in this part of the world, for instance, Japan, Korea, Taiwan. This is the second week that we're gonna focus on more than the storytelling part of that we learned last week, more like understanding you as an asset and how can you really turn this into money, right? Overly simplified way of saying. Moving module 2, we have module 4 modules as you know, which is all about monetization. So a business model and a monetization. So how do we turn visibility into opportunities? That's the core thing. And how do we turn opportunities into revenue? And how do we validate ideas much faster than the traditional startup methods? That's what we're going to focus on today. And let's go. So, we have 4 modules, right? And then before we jump in, let's have a quick look at what we are doing so far. A quick speed run. Expect me from like 25 minutes. Lauren, this is my part, and I'm going to pass you the ball. So meanwhile, you can relax and enjoy my boring topic. Trust me, I'm not going to make it boring. Yeah, I will do my best. All right. I will try to do silly jokes between. So module 1 was like story and the positioning. Oh, because this program very much focuses on the individual competencies of each person and accelerating for person. Module 2 is about monetization validation. And then module 3 going to be about productization and optimization through AI. And module 4 is about how can we make this much bigger, amplification, marketing, distribution, ecosystems, and so on. Each module builds on the previous one because visibility without monetization isn't enough, right? And monetization without systems don't scale, and system without distribution don't grow. Let's go. And then, the conversion is the today's keyword. So, because at the end of the day, everything you are doing here is all about conversion, right? Not necessarily selling. We are not going to talk about just sales or anything like this at all. We're going to be approach differently, much more actionable, honestly. How can we convert attention into trust? The first week was how can you grab the attention? Also the content creation part of it too, right? So now we're talking about the conversion and then converting into the trust to the opportunities. And opportunity it means the revenue or long-term growth, like equity partnerships and so on. Most people focus on the creating more content or more connections or more ideas. What we are really learning here is to convert those into real outcomes. And this is our collaboration between you all here. We are building this marketing system that you are part of it. And then we are trying to build together in collaboration with you too as well. And then amplify you through our platform and our programs, all the exposure and so on. But without any conversion, doesn't make sense, right? So that's why we're going to talk, literally money. This week's all about money again. And no, you don't need a startup to start making money. No, you don't even need a incorporation yet, but we recommend for sure. So you don't even need a business yet. So the things change a lot, right? I'm here to tell you all. If you already have one, that's great. So we can amplify it, right? If you have a startup, we can amplify. You can you learn the things and then you can implement your startup too, right? But whether you're a founder, creator, consultant, or employee in a company, or someone exploring new opportunities, you need a system that helps you to create value, test it out, test what works, eventually monetize it, and maybe it could be a side income too. Why not, right? This is not the entire thing, but yeah, it could be also valuable for you. I mean, so I'd like to get started with this. I think one of the most important stuff. My part going to be we're talking about the bridging gap here from the idea to revenue. This is really the core idea of today's session. So for a long time, the traditional way of validating the business model was painfully slow. You had an idea, create a plan, build pitch deck, spend months to build a product, launch it, and only then discover whether people are going to actually want it, pay it or not. We don't know. So I'm not talking about the deep tech startups or something like this, right? I'm talking about everything, literally everything. It needs to be converted in a very short period of time. So we're talking about the emotional energy here, targeting the emotional layer of the business people. So today, and then the distance between an idea and a feedback and revenue has literally collapsed, of course, in a good way. And we can move at the content speed. This is the general theme of the entire program to content speed. You can take an idea, turn into a post, turn into a video, turn into a framework, turn into a landing page, database, whatever. Even a simple offer that can be put into front of the real people via literally from your phone that you in your pocket right now, resting there. It's an asset to reach literally millions of people. Then we look for the signals when you put something out there. Content, saves, DMs, questions, blah. But the strongest signal isn't just agreement, engagement, or view time, watch time, blah blah, right? So it's the money, which is the revenue. So when someone pulls out their credit card, right, they're telling you your idea that creates enough value to pay for. So we're targeting people who's literally holding their credit card. Ching. I hope it's a metal one. That's why we focus on the rapid iteration, idea, content, signal, offer, value, revenue. Learn, repeat. Not guessing longer, but testing faster, blazing faster. Let's connect it with this to the last week. The person is in this slide is you, your experience, your skills, everything, your reputation, your story. That's why we focus on the story. because most people think that they need more credentials, more followers, more the idea, crazy idea, an app idea or whatever they're building it. You to generate some revenue out of this or build a company. No, what we are introducing here is you. You are the most valuable asset in the company. Generally, you are the only asset for a while in the company, and you don't really need the head of company yet. Also, so usually that's not actually a problem, but the speed is the problem. The challenge is the recognizing what already has value and activating it. You are the asset. The rest of the system is simply behind the asset that creates opportunities and systems. I have a video for some other topics. Please have a look. I'm not going to spend time for this kind of things. A distribution is part of the product market fit, because if nobody sees what you're building, nobody can help. But that's why we call it product instead of product market fit, content market fit. Things that you can immediately start producing and distributing out there, so you can get feedback loop. So please have a look at that video. So please publish in the chat as well. And also quickly shout out that if you want to go more deep and more in depth, I have how long this video? I don't know, 40 minutes, something like that. Like, I literally research every little thing out there and I compress it to be able to make this video. But you can be sure that the content inside is pretty solid, but it's only focused on the venture scale. So things that we're going to cover with the lower end part. So, but I wanted to make it a bit different, that it's more individual focus with my part right now. So I'm not going to go down in so much detail. If you want to like learn things that is a bit detailed, you can check. The short form is I already put in the group, by the way, for you, especially from the half. There are some simple tips there. You can check it out. Anyway, let's go. So I'm not just going to play this for sure. Core concepts I'm just going to cover here, okay? Really, two games happen at the same time right now when it comes to the monetization, the business model. Of course, I am overly simplifying here. Cash flow and equity. Cash flow keeps you alive or your business alive, literally. I mean, quite literally. It's the income, it's the fuel. I mean, it's the food for your body, right? Equity is ownership and the future value. I just can't stress enough how many people screw these meanings. Most people really don't get this. I don't know why. I'm here to help. I mean, if you really don't understand, just connect with me privately. Just I can help you to understand. The equity is the real business for the venture capital, not your cash. All right. Let's not go there, but cash flow helps you to survive, to your business survive. Equity helps you to compound. So the compounding values and interest is very different topic. But even at the individual layer level, this demonstration tell us the importance of it. Most people focus on the entirely the one thing, like consulting business, just to make money, not to build an equity. There are many ways to build equity. Is this page also mentioning what's things that build equity doesn't really only have to be the stocks, ETFs, real estate, blah, but I just want to make it like always example. What compounds you need to have a look? What you can claim the ownership is your brand value also could be one thing. Large audience, if you could build up step by step. And that sort of thing, right? That's why you need to be an asset-like. So equity requires to be an asset that can grow and brings also return on investment pressure, perhaps, and to your investors in the future. But at this stage, we only focus on the individual level for sure. So two core logics of cash flow, because I want a little bit more dive into the cash flow a little bit. At the most high level, broadly speaking, there are two core ways to generate cash flow. Again, I'm overly simplifying, sorry for that. But either you sell your own value or you help distribute other people's stuff, right? Your own value could be consulting services, content, products, software, or startups. Other people's value could be partnerships, referral, affiliates, distribution. Some businesses entirely built upon this selling other people's stuff. For example, entire retail industry is based on that, which is $1 trillion industry. Could be this way too. Or you can work both way too. So both creates opportunities. The important thing is to choose what really makes sense on your current situation. And there's so many tools that I'm going to introduce, but you can check it out later for sure. And a quick touch into equity part. I know a lot of people interested in it, but it's a bit conceptual and abstract topic. That's why need to be a little bit explained more. So three ways of building equity we are talking here. We wanted to focus here, forms of equity. First of all, personal equity, owned equity, and external equity. So personal equity is your reputation, audience, expertise, credibility, and so on. How you can make it asset-like is, guess what? Your online appearance, content, audience, something that you put online. Because everything else that you do is pretty much private. We don't know what you're doing down there, up there, whatever. So we need to prove this. Owned equity is what you build to yourself. I mean, quite literally, if you build a house by yourself, it's your own equity, right? Quite simply way of saying. But there's much more complex way of obtaining equity. And external equity is the ownership in other companies through investments, advisory shares, and partnerships, and so on. This is what I did. That I have relationship with 73 startups. That I have equity relationship, right? Those are pretty much a complex relationship. If they convert in the future, I'm gonna maybe make money out of this. Again, maybe. So it doesn't make me maybe in terms of paper quite wealthier than average people. but it doesn't really convert in something. So I need cash flow, right? So that's why I have an active business. Anyways, this is also entire logic of the entire venture capital industry too. They survive through management fee, and then they also charge the carry, right? The carry on the top from the sale of the company. So what's interesting is that the personal equity often becomes the bridge between them two. But I highly recommend this YouTube channel. And she's doing a great job to explain these concepts, but for relevancy into entertainment and content-based businesses. But again, we are not talking about the content-based businesses here. We're learning from these industries to ours, right? And she has been working both in specialized and then in her field in Hollywood. So how to obtain the equity value of the entertainment content for now advising to creators and so on. Highly recommended. And here are some quick shout out to some tools that you can use, by the way, for mostly about the monetization part, monetization platforms. Good news that there is so many things out there. You can check it, look and have a look. Most people don't have the technology problem anymore. No, not even platform problem anymore. Most people have the problem of getting executing, like doing stuff. That's why these kind of programs exist. So we are, accountability partner of you. We can do it side by side. We know what is the, things out there, but you also know it probably. You can information is not a scarcity anymore. You find out that, but you don't know how to use it, right? That's why next week, for example, we're gonna bring the vibe coding expert, right? So really make things easy to understand for us, so who can hold our hand to make us really build stuff with the vibe coding. So this is also the same. You can utilize us with this way. I'm not gonna dive into each of it here. You can check it out yourself. You're gonna receive the materials as well because I have like limited time. So you don't need an audience. By the way, this is a common objection. That's why I'm putting this one here. One of the biggest misconception online that you need a huge audience before you can create any opportunities. That is a giant BS, guys. Seriously. That's simply not true anymore because most platforms are now interest based rather than follower based now. I believe everyone is noticing this one. Let me know if anyone is not using any social media anymore. Let me check that out. Here's the core things here. Algorithms right now tends change that. They test the content with the people who never heard the you before. Now literally, quite literally, roughly 95%, maybe give and take, roughly, I'm speaking, my all contents that I create contents out there, right? So you notice this probably, view and watch by the strangers, people that I don't know. If you don't able to sell something to the strangers, you don't have a business, period. You need to be able to go after the third layer of the your network and on a scale, a large scale. So luckily, everyone can create a yapping video and it reach millions of people because the entire algorithm built upon this. The relevancy beats the followers. Value beats the popularity. If your content resonates, people will come. This is the logic how it works, by the way. They test with the smaller and larger cohorts of people. Even though we advocate the LinkedIn also try to switch into this algorithm system, interest-based media thing. Of course, you need to give a good signals to the platform to align it. But LinkedIn doesn't work that way on a scale yet, but step by step it is. That's the underlying message here. Build like you post. That's the message. Build like you post. Last week, I give an example from the A16Z, right? And recent Harvard's speedrun program. I was giving an example from Y Combinator to recent last two cohorts, hyper focus on this content creation thing. Because this is the ultimate way of validation. Collecting good signals, that's what I'm trying to say. So build like you post. What if we treat the products that same way as we treat the content? Create something small, publish it, get feedback, improve it, repeat. AI is making things incredibly possible to easy to do, and the time between idea and execution is literally collapsed. That's the premise. The people winning today are often the people who build now, build more, build now. The iteration speed has to be as short as 3 hours. I am not exaggerating. 3 hours, I'm gonna cry here. So people, they are the people who's learning faster. Some of the people that I follow the recent cohort of the Y Combinator, some of them publish wait for me 10 times. It gives a good one. And what are we doing here? 10 times. So it's just crazy. I'm going to give you some examples from my end, but things that I did before. But I'm going to give you some wild examples. I have a trigger warning all because some of them are adult content. Is anyone cannot stand the adult content here? Everyone is adult here, right? So let's I love building tension here. Wild examples. These examples may look a bit extreme, but the lesson is simple. The fastest growing founders today are the ones that use the content as a validation tool, distribution tool at the same time, and build an equity also at the same time. They learn incredibly fast because of the constantly testing in public in really short period cycles. So I guess one of the most famous example is the Cooley founder Roy Lee, who is the most controversial, aggressive. The guy is a problematic kid, all right? But I love him so much because he teaches us very good, important, and become a pioneer on this mindset shift. So basically create viral looking videos. Of course, they burn ads to even go wild more, sell like a hell, like crazy. Core idea is that the creative ad, the content I'm talking about, could be something so simple and super controversial. In his case, he utilized a controversy, right? Or the good adultery content I was mentioning here, this guy, I'm gonna show you a video. I have to warn you all, if you're in a train in a public area, be careful. Okay, are you guys ready to hear? Because this guy built a laptop that mounts. I mean, you know that sound, right? Everyone is adult here, right? So, and then he built a product on it. It's hilarious. Like, can we have a quick look? But are you guys able to hear? All right, you hear, right?
Let's recap the past 10 days. 10 days ago, I posted a video of me flapping my MacBook. It went viral overnight. So I did what every indie developer would do. I built an app around the concept and shipped it in 48 hours. Slap Mac. It reads your MacBook accelerometer 1,000 times samples per second.
So, you know, there is a parameter inside that measures this vibration. It measures and you create a simple vibe code of product because he can get the data easily, actually. It's not that complicated. That funny stuff, right? So it goes viral. So idea is a viral. You know what I mean?
And if it detects a slap, it make a noise. I went viral again on Instagram, then Reddit, and X. People started tagging me in video of themselves slapping their MacBooks. Then I went for product hunt. Number one, product of the day. Stanford PhD reached out wanting to help improve the slap detection algorithm.
All right, so you guys get the message, right? This is one of my favorite VC creator, venture capitalist creators. I'm kind of building a network with also database with this because I'm trying to position myself that way too. He's one of the famous, I mean, not super famous, I guess around 10,000 because the entire VC industry is pretty small. So his content is pretty good. He's from the Bay Area. So it's a good example. And some others also the same, but please have a look by yourself, especially coolly dig inside one. Or this gentleman, also have a look with the one tweet, $10 million business stuff. So anyway, just I'm trying to learn and then implement to this one to myself too. But none of things is pretty nothing viral that much. But for my scale, it's viral. If something is performing over 5 times than your follower, it's viral. That's the rule. 5, 10 times. So a lot of you posters are like this. Now currently I'm kind of like over 250,000 watch on my videos. So you might think that LinkedIn only 10 people give a like. How is that? No, it is. I have TikTok. TikTok is amazing. I recommend everyone. It's beautiful. Anyway, let's go. You can have a look later. So those are some examples. But you know, product like a content like a product example. That's why I rushed 3 a.m. yesterday. This video. This is not just a video, by the way. Oops. Please have a look later. This shows that I built a vibe coded game. It's about AI slope or legitimate star who raise funding or not. Very engaging. I mean, the post itself. I mean, the game itself. You can play by simply voice ordering to the cloud, and then make a video out of this at 2 a.m. simply talking, whispering to my AI. Yeah, what a time to be alive, right? So anyway, this is a good example of this, I believe. I'm trying to learn and implement it and make a video out of this too. So I'm not going to get rich out of one, of course, vibe called a game. So this is another content example, database and create and publish it. So you can use it as a lead magnet and blah, blah, but the core idea is there is basically you can build like a product. Let me wrap this up because I want to pass the ball to Lauren. Sorry, Lauren, for keeping wait. And anyways, so here's the roadmap for as a summary of everything, as a snapshot. The monetization system that we're recommending here. Yeah, so everything that we discuss is compressed into this slide. Basically, you can have a nice snapshot here. And content creates visibility, visibility creates conversations, create opportunities, and so on. Please have a look later because all of them is here. And then lastly, it's all about creating the irresistible offers. A lot of people think that monetization is all about selling harder. It's actually bad. It's that don't spam people, right? Or don't sound needy. So it's about making the value obvious. The bigger problem that you solve, the easier it gets becomes, the sale become easier. Clear the outcome, the easier the sales become. People don't buy because something is cheap or you spend so much time and effort on it. People buy because they believe that the value greater than the price. The value greater than the price. Hallelujah. Great value is better than bigger than the price. That's the core equation has to be. Your job is to not to pressure people, but your job is to make people decisions so obvious that it's like people should feel like stupid to say no to you. We all going to work all together here with the office hours and all the things, make this a reality. Your offer is going to be much more make sense. How to do that is actually the ask and offer ratio is an important metric here. You should not ask a lot of things from the people from the beginning, and ask should be something that is coming to you. So like give them so much value, and then they will be overwhelmed. I think I should give you something back. That's the core idea. So make people overwhelmed by giving. So how you can give on a scale is content and a lot of things, right? We are talking here. That's the thing. And then of course, the bigger the offer, bigger the ask, bigger the results. And how to make these offers much bigger, better, which actually you can think like perks with the mindset of perks. So bundles, added values. At the core, people has these, values across these three things. Most people fall into these categories: visibility, or maybe training opportunity you give them, something support you can give more soft values to, rather or exposure, or the things that people might they need to feel bargain when they buy in your solution, or maybe you give them extra credibility, being belong to somewhere, that sort of thing. Cover this up. Conclusion: move fast, stay visible, and focus on conversion always. Conversion is our north star because we get this now. It's a high level, right? A quick presentation. Now let's work on individually. How can we make this one implement and get action from now on? Deliverables are, I'm not going to walk you through all because everything is accessible in your dashboard anyways. All the files are accessible. You can basically read it. And if you can take a screenshot of this, or, from now on, you can have a look more. Those are the deliverables going to be how we're going to put into the action, basically. Creating a 1 minute page, analysis in your target customers, partners, ask and offer, that sort of thing is all going to be there. Map your current monetization system. Are you monetizing or not? Or are you ready to monetize it or not? That you have a system or not for this. If I want to pay you $1,000 right now for your service, how are you going to charge me? That sort of thing, right? And choose your monetization direction, publish content, expand your network, book us more office hours. We want to help you turn conversion action, that sort of. There is some people are focused on the pitch, so I'm already giving you some extra sessions for that, so I'm not going to dive in here. And anyway, so please book us for more sessions. So I'm happy to support you. You all already have my links, so but if you want, you can call me the choose scan here. Yeah, by the way, next group officer, I'm going to do kind of like a video editing quick workshop because some of you interested in this one. So feel free to come over to our group office hour. I'm going to basically share my screen and then show you how it works in the much simplest way possible because I produce hundreds of content. Yeah, that's it. Next week going to be productization AI, and then next week going to be the how can we scale things out. Honestly speaking, until the 1 hour earlier of this, I had a lot of meetings. Then right after finishing this 7:30, I'm gonna continue meetings. Whew, crazy, because we are experiencing a significant interest in this program that would never even anticipated when we started this. I mean, I can't complain. So I can't complain for sure. Sorry for that taking so much time. And Lauren, thank you so much for the patience. It's time to pass the ball to Lauren. I know your voice is challenging, but thank you so much for your support in our community here. Really appreciate it. Now we're gonna talk about more how can we make things scale even more. But we accidentally write here $11 million. Actually, it's supposed to be 0 to 1. I talk a bit more 0 to 1. Lauren is focused on 1 to beyond. Accident 11. Sorry for that. And with that being said, Lauren, stage is yours first. We'd like to know you more. Please introduce yourself to our cohort. More than half of the people joining asynchronous, they're gonna watch the video, basically.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm sounding like a little frog here, but this slide kind of covers a lot of about me. I've worn many, many hats in the past. I've had my successes, my failures as a founder, as a operator, and I've seen lots of companies both on the pitch side, on the investing side. I do work here right now in Tokyo, and I have many different, let's just say, work streams. One which includes SME acquisitions focused around the future work and vertical SaaS space. And then I also support the Tokyo AI community, which is a very international group of engineers, founders, and investors focused around all things AI, deep tech, robotics, medical discovery, etc. So happy to be here, and thank you so much, Erdich. I know Erdich is promising a lot for me to cover. I wanted to start off with some of maybe the biggest lesson I've had so far in my career. And I think he's extensively repeated over and over again. Distribution without product is nothing. I always tell folks you can build the best kitchen. There's no customers. It's not a restaurant. It's a kitchen. Those of you building marketplaces, you're going to have to work twice, if not 4 times as hard. It's exponentially harder for each segment of customers. So just be mindful of each customer segment. Today's talk is really about 2 things: business models and monetization. And I want to start off first with what is a business model. And in a very high level definition is 2 things. One, value creation, make people what people want. Second, get paid for it, right? Value creation, value harvesting. Once you figure all that out, then you could put a price on it. So it's really critical to understand where's value coming from. Excuse me. So for value creation, make something people love. Very YC. Once you get to that perfect harmony, it is all about happy customers. But that's what we're in the business of: finding and creating happy customers and keeping them. Some of you guys might have come across a business model canvas. I do not suggest you start here. I've seen people fill it out, come to me, and demand, not ask, but demand, where's my $50,000? Where's my $100,000 to start this project? I'm like, you haven't done any validation. I don't understand any of this. You just filled out boxes. And the one thing we won't cover in depth today, I'll kind of leave out here, is all the various models that you can go through. You can figure that out But the first thing at the heart of it is your customer. So with this, one of the easiest ways to go about figuring out your customer is find one and figure out what they do. Every customer has many, many jobs. They have many different experiences. And I think that one of the challenges a lot of businesses, big and small, is they don't realize, well, what is this journey and where do they want to play in? Where these to disrupt? There's a lot of these types of customer journey maps you may have not seen. There's very linear ones. You want to go buy something and you can map out where the opportunity is for you to come in and disrupt. And I think what is more important is there's nonlinear paths as well too. So many different entry points, and it could be a bank, it could be many different types of activities. At the heart of all this are all these little jobs to be done. And the reason why I come back to this is in anything you buy, whether it's a cup of water, it's your phone, there's lots of different things. If anything, Steve Jobs, famous for saying, the iPhone is three things: it's a phone, Internet Explorer, and a music player. That's how he introduced the iPhone device. Obviously, that's expanded a lot more, but that's how he wanted to share it to the world of like, how do I use it? Where does it fit in my life? So once we figure out what piece of that journey we want to go address, and then we figure out what specific job or set of jobs we're going to be addressing, now we can start talking about your North Star. And I think this is also a very, very thing for a lot of companies, even if you're big. There's oftentimes they try to chase too many things and no one can remember, what does this product stand for? What does this company mean? If I'm going to buy the more expensive model, why am I doing this? The example I love to use, go back over and over again, is Apple. When they first introduced the M1 chip, they're not the fastest. They're not the most powerful. They're not the cheapest. So what are they? They invented a new metric. They're the most efficient. And so they decided, what game are we playing? And once you had this little, very simple graphic, people understood, oh, well, we can add, because you started here, if you have the next model, add more power, you're going to be you're going to be more powerful than other competitors. And you're going to be saving us a lot more energy and electricity. So that was a very, very simple North Star, which hits really home to what the customer cares about. And it's a very simple narrative that you can tell, you can share with anybody in like 5 seconds. A similar example is the car industry, right? There's so many different cars. What are you competing on? Are you competing on the biggest car, the most powerful car, the one with the biggest trunk, the most efficient, the cheapest? And I think these are the things that you got to go figure out depending on what kind of customers you want to service. So the narrative is fairly simple. Before you came along with your product, life sucked. After, life is happy. Life is amazing. It's a very simple narrative. Now, after all this, we can start designing your business model. And I like the 7 powers framework. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of VC investors like to write about it. Excuse me. And this is what defines what game you're playing. A good example of this is, it's here Apple branding, but some people can say, well, Apple, in their infinite wisdom, they lost the AI war. But because they had a super powerful computer chip, that's why people are buying it. Mac minis. They figured out what they're good at. And it's still, at the end of the day, hardware. And that's where they are succeeding. And that's where they're able to play a game that no one wants to play in. So these are examples. You can Google 7 powers. I can share links about all this. Again, NFX is a really famous VC fund in the US. And the one other example I want to kind of touch on before we move off of this is number 3, counter positioning here. Oftentimes, a lot of this is going to be very difficult for any of us to compete. We don't have the branding. We are not Coca-Cola. We don't have scarce resources. We are not Eli Lilly, and we are not Medtronic or any other big companies. We're small. We don't have network effects just yet. We're young. We don't have economies of scale. Costco took a long time. But the one thing a lot of us have is the ability to be counter-positioned. So when Airbnb launched, they're like, well, we're not going to be Hilton. They're too good for us. We're not going to be Marriott, blah, blah. But the one thing we could be is anti-hotel. No one's going to be in the middle of a desert, right? And no one can give you this unique experience. because it's not to their quality, it's not to their standard. We can play the anti card. Same thing for Uber. We're the anti taxi. Take everything you hate about Uber or taxis, and then we are the flip of it. That's exactly the Dollar Shave Club ads. If you want to go on YouTube, they literally make an amazing 2-3 minute ad about everything that's wrong with the shaver industry and how they are fast, cheap, and good, and whatever, right? Everything that Gillette is not. So this is one of the tools to approach how do we want to design and where do we want to place our bets as a company. Where this all kind of boils down to, and the what I call is like key things I look for as a ecosystem partner, as an investor, as an acquirer is um, how can this business, do they understand their funnel or from funnel well? Are they being efficient? Do they know how to convert customers? Do they know where to go well hunting or fishing? And do they know how to bring home the bacon or whatever you want to eat? Likewise, do they understand? Do they have a regular way of getting feedback from the customer, from the market? Or are you flying blind, right? And then finally, everyone loves to talk about flywheels, but you cannot have a flywheel. You do not have a funnel and you don't have a feedback loop. Amazon's famous for flywheels. Um, and effectively is you do one crank, things go faster. You do it again, things get better and better. Your business model gets more and more defensible. But so when you have really good concept, you have an amazing pitch. Instinctively, these come out of your on the other side of the table. These two are the key things I look for. In addition to your North Star, is how good is the company at making their customers happy? If it takes this, and this, and this, and this, and this for your customer to start using your product, good luck, right? It's just, that's too much friction. It probably costs too much time, money, etc., etc. Question, how do we shrink that? It's really important in B2B. It's even more important in B2C. That's why we love Reels, we love TikTok Shorts, blah, blah, blah. The other, quickly to get paid. It's, do people pay you up front before you start working? Or do you rely on your partners if you're selling through some other company or platform, like say Facebook or Amazon, for them to pay you and you're taking a cut and they will pay you after 30 days and blah, blah. These all have on how, excuse me, has impact on how investors look at your business and how you're ultimately valued. Time to customer value and time to revenue. Now on harvesting, how do we get paid? There's two fundamental questions anyone out there is usually asking. Do I want it? Or am I in the market for something? And then which one? And typically, you do not want to waste time on the people that are asking, do I need it? You're looking for people that are in the market. Now, when you are going through this process of setting up your price, there's lots and lots of different frameworks. I've chosen only one today to go through with you guys. There's a series of steps you can go through. In a very high level nutshell, we do want to understand, goes back to, do you understand how well you understand your customers and how are you segmenting them? But through this, you can start mapping out what are of your ICPs, your customer segments, and what is your sensitivity towards price. We can segment it in different ways, good, better, and best. And then we can also find anchors, right? Are you in their minds similar to Salesforce, or are you closer to something like a Zendesk or Zoho, right? Is this something that, and it all depends on what feature set you're offering, what sort of reputation or brand you are putting forth. And there's different survey methodologies you can put out there. And this is basically using your product versus someone else's product and then conducting a quick survey. That's just one way of doing it. There's many different ways. I've even had founders I've spoken to, they give them away for free or they charge like the bare minimum to get through procurement or just to get people to start using it. It's effectively like freemium, right? And over time, depending on the usage, they will then adjust the price towards how much they can bear. So you're trying to optimize that value generation you are giving to your customers. So this is basically, again, for folks who are running a survey, trying to understand where does this fit in comparison to, you can either use a consultant, you can run it yourself. Again, there's many, many different types of out there. So for your pitch though, bringing this all back together here, the way to think about a pitch isn't to sell people on your first attempt. The focus actually, in my opinion, is to capture questions. Questions are one of the hardest things to get and understand. And as many people say, you don't know what you don't know, right? So everyone you meet, whether it's a customer or investor, they have tons of questions, whether they say it out loud or they don't say it. But this goes into your internal FAQ, and this is your internal flywheel, what makes you smarter. You bring this internal FAQ with your team when you have time. You figure out how are you going to respond to it? What are we going to say? What do we want to say externally? What do we want to keep internally? It goes into strategy, it goes into ops, it goes into marketing, and it goes into onboarding, which accelerates the whole process. So an example for this would be people keep asking, how much does this cost? Maybe there's a better way of us talking about it. If they ask, how long does this take to set up? Maybe you talk upfront about having connectors, or you put upfront done in 60 seconds or less. So you negate that need to even have that answered. But it allows you to be aware first and foremost, and then you can option how do we want to address these because it's a concern, and we can start understanding how urgent is the concern based off of how many people are asking these questions. The first thing I like people or founders to do, not talk about themselves, not talk about the technology, not talk about the market, but talk about your customers. Use your customers to talk about your market. How big is it? How sad is it? How painful is it? Use it to validate your market. Use it to validate you, and use it to validate the product. So one way to validate the market is by saying this quote is from a large Fortune 500 or a mom and pop or a soccer mom, whoever, right? The other about you would be folks who've worked with you, could be colleagues, or I'm really excited about this, about me as a founder because you've had specific empathy or unique insights into this space. And then for the product, well, it goes back to the before this came along, my life sucked. And after your product came along, it's all sunshine and it's amazing. And ideally, you also have it because what took 5 years takes 5 seconds or whatever, right? That's the North Star. If you have revenue, if you have traction, lead with it. And this is where having some quick POCs, having quick pilots help find a way to get these. It's really noisy out there. It's really crowded. Everyone will pay more attention and sit up front when you open the pitch by saying, we have 1 mil ARR, we have 8 mil ARR USD, 1,000 customers, and these are the faces of our happy customers. Now everyone's in a different stage. So if you don't have revenue traction, at least have customer testimonials. And if you don't have about your product, you can have testimonials about the market space, right? But it shows to whoever's listening, either your customers or your investors, that you are actively talking to customers. You understand their pain. So after this proof, then you talk about where do you fit in this whole value chain for your customers. What are you optimizing for? Which hill are we looking to fight over and die over? Is it efficiency? Is it price? Is it the most powerful? Whatever that might be. And going back to this example, performance efficiency. The one thing I think Erdich kind of stole my thunder on is this little snippet, which is making your pitch viral. I always like to use the example. If I'm in a busy bar, noisy bar, or coffee shop, and I meet a random stranger, and I tell them I'm working on ABC, can they understand me, right? You get a bronze star. If they can explain to someone else, you get a silver sticker, whatever. And if they want to join you, you're gold, right? You know you have something amazing. So the one last thing I want to say is everything is sales. Sales, pitching is sales, your customer is sales. So make sure your thing is viral. I know I didn't touch too much on the playbook for 100 million. I apologize for that. Just to touch on that piece real quick here. The very smart founders out there, they actually understand what happens behind the scenes after you pitch the investors. So if you work backwards here as a founder, you pitch the founder, or you're the founder pitching the investor has to write a memo They have to explain to their investment committee or their partners, why are we going to take you as opposed to the 1,000 other startups? Kind of like college admissions, really. And why is this going to make the people behind the fund, the limited partners, the institutionals, the endowments, other rich investors, how are we going to make the money? Because at the end of the year, they have something called an AGM, annual general meeting, and they have to go and defend who they invested in and why. So if you make it easy for them and you can explain what's a massive unlock and this is the playbook to 100 million, then that becomes really easy for them to choose you as opposed to others. As far as I apologize on this. Okay, here. This is a screwed up slide. I apologize. There's actually one really great one. 0.9 capital. I'll type it in here. Path to 100 million. They have a really good visual framework. Depending on what price point you're selling to your customers, that's going to determine what type of go-to-market, how much do you spend on sales? Do you do self-service? Do you do pro-serve? Do you have to do forward deployed engineers? Blah, blah. But you basically take $1 billion is what a unicorn typically is. And that's usually valued at a 10x of 100 million ARR, right? And from there, you can break down how to get to 100 million a year. So the Facebooks of the world, a typical customer, you and I are worth about $10 to them, right? They're not that much. My numbers are just, for example here, but $10, that means I can have to chase a million of these. Will get us to 100 million a year. This will put us in a unicorn status. On the flip side, if my product costs 100,000, I only need 10,000 customers. So there's a difference, but that 100,000 will require a different type of business model. It'll require a different type of org structure, support, blah, blah, blah. So that's something when you're talking about how to get to 100 million, writing the investment memo for people, you're going to want to start sketching it out. You don't have to have all the answers, but you have to at least acknowledge this is the path to getting there. And then these are the experiments. These are the tests we're going to run and validate our hypothesis and assumptions over time. So I think that's basically about it here. And I just want to quickly answer your question, Josh. How can we sell value of a complex product in 3 minutes? Is it possible? So depending on what the product is, deep tech could still be very simple, right? At the end of at the end of that fuzzy journey is who's using the product and what problem is it solving, and how does the customer measure? How are they measuring success? What's the before and after? That's what it comes down to. And I always like to talk about like a great pitch is literally a great commercial. It could be as simple as a toothpaste commercial, right? 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this. Before this, I had 5 cavities. After this, I had none, right? That's a way of measuring who is it used by, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, not every commercial follows this framework, but because not every commercial is meant to inform. Some of it can be more brand driven, just awareness, like GoDaddy, right? It's meaningless. They just want brand awareness. But what's in the US is you have all these insurance companies, and a famous one, Geico, is well known for doing silly ads, and at the very last minute they say save 10% or more on car insurance in 15 minutes or less. It's just that they just throw it in there, and so you hear it 7 times over, and that's what you remember. That little blip. You don't really care anything else. So, hope that answers your question.
Right. Thank you so much, Lauren. It was great. Thank you so much. Anyone else like have questions? I think Josh, it was a great question. Thank you so much. Also, I mean, feel free to come on the stage, by the way, to ask deliver questions so we can, make networking by this way. Lauren, there is no pitch in this, sessions by the way, but I'd like to, if there is no question, ask them to introduce themselves. The people who join here basically could also briefly introduce themselves. That would be very meaningful by this way, so you guys can maybe connect by this way. Let me remove the spotlight 1 sec, so we all can be in the same page. Okay. Yeah. So questions? If not, let's give you kind of introductions, like 1 minute intro each person, so we can, or as an icebreaker, we can start with the introductions. Feels shy? No. Anna, do you want to give an intro?
Yes. Hi, Lauren. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for the presentation. So my name is Anna. I'm currently pivoting from previously, I was the research agency, but now when the AI significantly dropped my income over the past year, I decided to pivot, and this is the new information for Erdinch. So I pivoted to sports tech startups. It was like, yeah, 2 days ago, I decided to, to do that. And so for now, I'm to develop a platform for non-elite swimmers to teach them how to do that properly, because they are struggling usually with these lack of knowledge how to do things, and they don't have enough money to get the personal trainers usually. So here is the what I see as a source of business for me. The platform means, I'll be super interested in getting content as well, and the proof of concept with my colleagues in swimming is suggesting me that's the right way. So now I'm super excited. Yeah,
New
it's like
beginnings.
that.
Congrats. Anna is also one of
Yes,
the mentor at FI, by the way, FI chapters.
it's
Couple
true.
of
Yeah,
countries, by the way. Now
yeah.
developing something new also, apart from all the expertise she has. Kudos, because she's a pro swimmer. This challenging water. So new ikigai, no? You find your ikigai maybe.
True. That's again for the testimonial of your program, Erdinch.
Thank you.
The research agency came out with the start.
Thank you so much, Anna. All right, let's introduce other people as well. And a minute intro from each person will be great. So Lauren also would get to know you more with this way. Andrew, say your mic is down. Okay. I think maybe Andrew, Lauren, you both met before because Andrew briefly joined the FI before. Maybe you might remember him. He's from Hong Kong, based in Hong Kong, and I'm gonna meet with him in 3 weeks. We're gonna party there, right? A lot of spicy food. Cool. All right, Josh, Hendrik, Toshi, anyone?
Hi, go.
Right,
Lauren,
Josh.
thank you so much for the presentation. Hope my sound is all right. So I work in the cybersecurity industry. A lot of my peers are building platform to sell to elephants and whales and things like that. But I do have a passion to provide cybersecurity platform to small businesses, and I want to sell to mice and bees and whatnot, right? So does it mean that I'm doomed to fail? That is my ultimate question, because I think there's a passion and social justice and conscious thing that I think that small business needs cybersecurity, and they cannot afford a pricing model like the enterprises does. So that is a problem I'm trying to solve.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. All right, let's go to the people. Who wants to go next? Hendrik?
Yeah, hi, I'm Henrik. Thank you for the presentation. And I'm building a cloud solution to accelerate the development and deployment of digital services, and building it in Japan, but targeting global. One thing I'm wondering is we're quite early, so we have like an MVP. We know the technology works, but we have talked to some kind of pilot customers, but we don't really have like testimonials or good data. So I'm wondering how to pitch in this very early stage, or if we should even pitch at all.
It's a good question. Hendrik, thank you. Lauren, would you like to? That last part was a question.
So you said you have a cloud business and you don't have any testimonials you can use at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a business yet. It's a working MVP.
So you're building an MVP. That MVP is going to be ultimately used by someone, and it's going to effectively slot into a work stream or workflow, right? Nothing in life is a standalone piece. Even something as simple as TikTok or Facebook exists in a larger workflow of life, and they have legacy and an ecosystem, all that stuff. So your MVP already has context. You also have context on why you're building this MVP, because you have some sort of pain that you perceived that the market is lacking or needs, right? So I think that's where we start. I think it's also, and I've seen this quite a bit, where there is lots of technology out there that is cool and in search of a customer. I've been there many, many times. It's painful. But this is where I think truly, truly these customer journey mappings, exercises, whiteboarding, it doesn't have to be fancy. I've done it with lots of clients in the past, whether they're banks or medical, just where does this fit? And then who's all the surrounding people? And then we can start figuring out, okay, where does the money eventually flow, and what's the impact of the cost? But it is, I would say, not always easy to do so. Get a friend. There's lots of designers out there that can help. And maybe Claude could be a supporting coworker for you. So, can I ask what type of
friend of Claude? So.
Can I ask what type of cloud product you have here?
Yeah, we're building a platform that integrates a lot of services that most digital services get from a bunch of different vendors. So we make it, first of all, cheaper in total and also much simpler because it's only one integration point. You can go into a console and just turn on features instead of going and integrating with all kinds of systems.
Reduce a lot of cost, by the way.
Yes, that's probably the headline feature, is to reduce the cloud bill.
Because a lot of startups that I know has outrageous cloud costs, then cloud computing cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, was your question, how do you pitch this? I mean,
yeah. So we're super early, right? I feel like when I'm pitching it, I don't have any or customer numbers. What should I do in that case?
But you've already identified some of the key hypothesis of the pain points, which complexity, cost, time, right? And this could either come from a enterprise, right? From procurement, the finance division needs cost controls, or it could be small SMEs or a single founder who doesn't want to deal with a bunch of API setups, right? And so you can start exploring these little narratives about who's this customer. Ideally, you have an actual name, so it's not hypothetical. The more hypothetical it is, the more fake your pitch sounds. But the closer you do to having a real person that you can see using it, it could be Sato-san from Mitsubishi or Joe from Iowa, right? Then it becomes much more real. I mean, what you are building, not to jump the gun here, it sounds like Mastery, it sounds like MuleSoft. These are very much old models or well-proven models that have existed for the last 10, 15 years.
MuleSoft is interesting that, because that's the one I think is kind of the closest, but it's very old and enterprise legacy kind of solution. So yeah, if you think a modern MuleSoft, you're kind of close.
But there was another one, and I'm forgetting the name, but it had 50 different connectors. And yeah, this is Claude and help you jog. I use Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT every day to clog my crappy memory. But there was one that basically you can turn on and off all these services. It cost a little bit more, but the TCO, total cost of ownership, was much lower. And if you compute labor costs, that's tremendous because you're not having to put no one needs to be on pager duty for all these outages anymore, right? So, yeah.
Except me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, Hendrik, I have also some bunch of ideas I would like to tell you a little bit later. And then let's arrange a call as well. I'd like to tell.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you type in there, but feel free to also read it out loud, your question.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Lauren. My name is Han Yong. I'm also working on cloud, just like Henrik, but mine on a more federated cloud exchange, actually, that is more towards anti-big tech exchange based on the European Union Gaia X project. So most of this, how to exploit small business sentiments that are now against big tech to gain customers traction in the small, micro and small business communities.
Yeah, so every customer, big or small, is political. At my last enterprise consulting gig, we were basically an outsourcing BPO, right? And I was running automation for a lot of CX initiatives. And it's interesting because if you were to sell cloud services to like a Nordstrom or a retail company, none of them will buy from AWS because AWS is affiliated with Amazon, who is eating their lunch. Everything is political, right? So what that means is Google, GCP, and Azure, Microsoft. Okay, we can sell those too. Sometimes you advertise it, sometimes you don't advertise it. I mean, the link you've shared is, we can just immediately point to the rise of Anthropic is literally a semi-culture war against ChatGPT. They're kind of almost at the same level sometimes, right? But I would say these become part of your brand values. This is what you're going to be emphasizing on. Depending on what you're selling, it might be privacy, it might be security, it might be transparency, whatever these things that your specific customer, and I say yours because every company has specific things they're indexing for. ChatGPT is not about transparency. It is not about privacy. is about performance, and we're willing to make that trade-off, right? Whereas you're willing to use DeepSeek because it's cheap and you can run it locally. But these are the brand values you need to decide and say, this is how we're going to be. This is the war we're fighting for you on. When you pay us, this is how we're going to be your hired agents, whatever you want to call it.
That's why I'm focusing on digital neutrality, because Cloudflare, based on their content neutrality, have managed to acquire many customers, big and small.
Neutrality can work, but again, it goes back to who your customer is and what do they care about, right? It can be risky when you're so neutral that it's not defend your turf. Classic example, this is not a great example, but like say BYD and Toyota, for instance, right? In Japan, BYD is very difficult to sell because everyone's like Toyota, Japanese, Japanese, Japanese. In Korea, it's like Hyundai, 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 right? So, but if we're neutral, who cares about this? There are certain products people don't care that want neutrality. And that's because these are things that have either very limited exposure outside the door. Like if I buy Muji, that's fine because no one's coming to my house and like saying, oh, that's not Hermes or it's not Zara Home, it's not IKEA, right? That's just you. And so they can be very, very transparent. But I would say what you're talking about is one character. And there's this brand wheel, right, of universalism, the everyday man. So this is the Levi's, this is the IKEA, it's the Mujis of the world. Your industry may not allow for neutrality. It can, it may not. Now there are examples like Linux, Ubuntu, and all that stuff, right? Open source. And then you have to figure out what is your model.
Right.
Okay, thank you a lot.
And even them, their model is professional services.
All right, noted.
Thank you so much. I'd like to also introduce you some other people as well. I don't think it's Andrew. Oh, I see. Oh, it's the same profile. Got it. So, who didn't introduce himself is actually Toshi here. Toshi and Laura, you met before? He's the only Japanese in the room.
We met at the Antro event with Edding, or we met at Venture Cafe too, I think.
I see. Yeah.
I've known him
I
too
know
long.
you. I always watch you
No.
at Antro or Shibuya Start Support on the Venture Cafe. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Toshi. And only two people from Japan here. One is Henrik and Toshi. This cohort, everyone is actually overseas. And me, I mean, also. Anyways, thank you so much, Lauren. It was a really great session, honestly, and I learned a lot, and we all learned a lot, I believe. And if you all have any questions, please type us, just reach out to us. And the deliverables are there, right? So if you want me to make kind of more detailed walkthrough, we can set up a call, or we can do in the Wednesday group office hours too, as you all wish. If you have particular questions, just feel free to just type me on WhatsApp. Yeah, I think let's call today. And because Lauren is a bit sick, but Lauren, special thank you, because even though with your condition, really appreciate it for your determination. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you, everyone. See you on Wednesday. Deliverables, please. Thank you.
Bye.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Bye.